Listen up, this isn't your regular hip-hop gossip. This is chaos behind the cameras. Loyalty tested and fear exposed. Jim Jones, a name that carries weight, power, and history. Suddenly shaken, Maino, once inside the circle, now quits. Let's rap about it, leaving fans and insiders stunned. Why? Because disrespect doesn't slide in this world and everyone knows it. But that's not all. Cameron steps in, finally dropping the truth that Jim Jones feared. Maxby fear. The kind that changes alliances, shifts streets, and sends ripples across the hip-hop universe. Picture this. Whispers turn into rumors. Rumors turn into headlines, and headlines ignite drama that nobody saw coming. Names are more than just labels here. They're weapons, shields, and currencies. A single wrong move, a single word, a single look, and the balance tips. This is about loyalty and betrayal, ego and consequence. What's said and what's done behind the scenes. It's not just music, not just podcasts, not just beef. It's street code, respect, survival, all rolled into one explosive saga. So pay attention, because by the time everyone realizes what went down, it's already too late. Jim Jones' reputation, Maino's move, Cameron's reveal, all pieces of a puzzle nobody can ignore. Click, watch, understand, and brace yourself. The streets don't forgive. The truth doesn't wait. And this drama, it's just getting started. The aftermath of the hook settled like a storm waiting to break. The words Maino quits and Cameron reveals Maxby fear weren't just headlines. They were signals to the entire hip-hop scene. In this world, signals travel faster than the music, faster than the news cycles, faster than the fans can react. It all began quietly. Insiders whispered in encrypted messages. Phone calls were brief and coded, and gestures in the studio carried meaning that only the inner circle could understand. Quiet doesn't mean harmless. It's the calm before an inevitable shakeup. And the ground beneath Jim Jones and his circle was already trembling. Maino's departure from Let's Rap About It sent shockwaves. Loyalty in this industry is currency, and leaving a platform at such a critical time was a statement that resonated far beyond personal choice. Was it a protest against disrespect or a calculated move to protect his own reputation? Either way, the streets and studios alike were paying attention. Jim Jones' energy shifted immediately. Confidence gave way to caution. Eyes scanned rooms differently. Words were measured. Every conversation became layered with subtext. Cameron's revelation about Jim Jones fearing Maxby only heightened the tension. Music fear isn't just a feeling. It's contagious. When paired with power and influence, it reshapes alliances, decisions, and behavior. Suddenly, visibility became a weapon. Every appearance, every post, every handshake was analyzed. Friends questioned each other's loyalty. Rivals saw openings. Trust was tested repeatedly, and minor actions carried major consequences. The web of relationships in the hip-hop world was more fragile than ever. Studio sessions turned strategic. Public appearances were calculated. Social media posts were scrutinized, not for content, but for implications. Quiet decisions started having louder effects than any diss track could achieve. Actions and reactions were no longer spontaneous. They were tactical maneuvers in a high-stakes game of reputation and power. Even the casual observer noticed subtle changes. Familiar faces not showing up, sudden disappearances, messages left unanswered. Every silent act was a statement. Every interaction had potential consequences. The scene had shifted from entertainment to strategy, survival, and influence. The week progressed and the city's hip-hop landscape transformed. Allies realigned. Opportunities emerged for rivals, and the hierarchy of respect recalibrated. Whispers from one corner sparked chain reactions in another. One misunderstanding could escalate into full-blown conflicts. Every move mattered because now the game wasn't just about music. It was about control, perception, and loyalty. Insiders say tension peaked in private meetings. Conversations that were once casual became intense discussions about positioning and reputation. Who to trust, who to approach, who to avoid. Every decision was weighed, analyzed, and executed with precision. Mistakes were no longer forgivable. They were remembered, recorded, and could be exploited. By the end of the week, the patterns were clear. Strategic appearances, calculated silence, and subtle power plays dominated interactions. The narrative wasn't public yet, but insiders already knew how it would unfold. Jim Jones, Maino, and Cameron weren't just characters. They were chess pieces in a game where perception, timing, and loyalty dictated every move. Every ripple sent by Maino's quitting or Cameron's reveal was already being felt. The streets were on high alert, and the players understood that's next move could redefine everything. Loyalty, fear, and respect were no longer abstract concepts. They were weapons and shields in a real-life saga unfolding in plain sight. This was only the beginning. The stage was set. Observers were watching. The players were ready. And in the world of hip-hop, when signals like this are sent, the response doesn't wait. The storm was coming, and everyone involved knew it. What followed? Next wouldn't just be gossip. It would reshape reputations, alliances, and the very landscape of the game. Every decision, every word, every glance carried weight. And for Jim Jones, Maino, Cameron, and everyone in their orbit, the consequences of these moves would echo long after the cameras stopped rolling. Quietly, strategically, and with lethal precision, the city had entered a new chapter of drama, loyalty, and power. This was the first chapter, the calm before the storm, and by the time the public caught wind, the groundwork for the next wave of consequences was already laid. Nothing would ever be the same again. Quiet whispers and subtle gestures evolved into calculated moves. The city's hip-hop landscape was no longer just about music. It had become a high-stakes game of perception, loyalty, and influence. Maino's absence from Let's Rap About It became a talking point in every studio on every street corner. Rivals alike speculated about his intentions. Was this a personal decision or a strategic maneuver? The ambiguity only fueled the fire. Every interaction in the industry started carrying double meanings. Every handshake, every glance, every message was interpreted as a signal. Nothing could be taken at face value. Jim Jones felt the pressure. The usual bravado was replaced with caution. Every move was scrutinized. Even casual interactions in public now required careful consideration. Behind the scenes, meetings were held to assess alliances, evaluate trust, and determine next steps. Cameron's revelation about the Max B fear only added complexity. Fear is a subtle manipulator. It changes behavior, recalibrates relationships, and influences decisions in ways that are not immediately visible. The ripple effect extended beyond the main players. Associates, collaborators, and even casual fans began to sense the shift. Certain names became charged with meaning. Every mention weighted with subtext. Strategic silence emerged as a new tool. To speak recklessly could escalate the situation. To remain silent could be interpreted as a sign of weakness. In this environment, even the smallest action had the potential to trigger major consequences. The week unfolded with a series of carefully orchestrated events. Studio sessions were no longer casual. They were meetings of strategy. Public appearances were timed and calculated. Social media activity was monitored for implicit signals. Observers who were once casual fans found themselves parsing content for hidden meanings. The city had entered a state of heightened awareness where the stakes were invisible but unmistakable. Subtle signs began to emerge. Familiar faces disappeared from known venues. Communications were delayed or went unanswered. These were not coincidences. They were deliberate signals in a world where perception dictated power. Each action was a test of loyalty. Each response a measure of alignment. The consequences of missteps were immediate and unforgiving. Those within the circle learned quickly that trust once questioned could alter alliances and reputations permanently. Insiders noted that private discussions became increasingly intense. Topics ranged from strategic positioning to crisis management. Every move was analyzed, evaluated, and planned in advance. Decisions were no longer reactive. They were premeditated. The implications of each choice reverberated through the network, influencing relationships and opportunities. Mistakes were recorded mentally, remembered, and could later be leveraged. Loyalty was no longer a given, was conditional and constantly tested. As the week progressed, the narrative tightened. Music observers noticed that patterns in behavior were deliberate. Appearances were choreographed. Conversations that seemed casual were carefully managed. Public exposure was limited to only certain individuals. Every action conveyed a hidden message, signaling intention, loyalty, or caution. The city's hip-hop scene became a chessboard where each move had immediate consequences. By midweek, a subtle tipping point had been reached. The industry had become acutely aware that the previous dynamics had shifted. Jim Jones, Maino, and Cameron were no longer acting as isolated figures. They were part of a network of influence where each decision affected the broader ecosystem. Associates, friends, and rivals alike recalibrated their strategies. Realizing that minor missteps could lead to significant fallout, the streets responded. Predictably, gossip became more pointed, speculation more precise. Every whisper had the potential to influence decisions. The strategic positioning of loyalty and fear became a dominant theme. Quietly, the industry was watching who would align, who would oppose, and who would remain neutral. By the end of the week, even casual observers recognized that the stakes had escalated beyond normal conflicts. Maino's absence, Jim Jones' caution, and Cameron's revelations created a delicate tension. The network of relationships shifted in real time, with alliances forming and dissolving based on subtle cues. Communication patterns changed. Trust was reevaluated constantly. The environment was no longer casual. It was strategic, calculated, and unforgiving. Everyone involved knew that the next move could redefine the power structure. The week closed with an unspoken understanding. The drama was far from over. Signals had been sent, responses anticipated, and the scene was prepared for the next phase. The city's hip-hop culture had entered a new era of awareness, where loyalty, fear, and perception dictated every move. Every decision carried weight. Every action was significant. And every player knew that the consequences of missteps would be long-lasting. This was only the beginning of the escalation. The cowl from Part 1 had evolved into strategic tension. Observers and participants alike realized that what was happening behind closed doors would soon spill into public view. The stage was set for conflicts, revelations, and consequences that could redefine reputations, influence, and alliances. The industry had reached a point of calculated anticipation. Music, the next steps were not about reaction. They were about intention. Every individual, every alliance, and every decision was now part of a larger narrative in which perception and loyalty were the true currencies. Music, the next chapter, promised action, consequence, and the kind of drama that would make history. In hip-hop circles, nothing would be the same again. The stage was set, and the tension that had been building across the last two chapters was ready to erupt. The subtle whispers, the calculated movements, the coded messages, everything culminated into a scenario wherein inaction was no longer an option. Every player understood that the next steps would define reputations, alliances, and power structures. Across the hip-hop world, Jim Jones, whose energy had shifted from confident swagger to cautious vigilance, now faced the full consequences of the escalating drama. Every glance from peers, every public interaction, every unspoken word carried weight. The fear Cameron revealed, the one tied to Max B, was no longer theoretical. It was operational. In the minds of allies and rivals alike, fear dictated strategy. Jones' every move was being monitored, analyzed, and interpreted. A single misstep could unravel everything he had built. Maino, having quit, "Let's rap about it," was now a symbol. His absence resonated louder than any statement he could have made. Loyalty and respect were tested in his silence, and the industry observed carefully. Some allies admired the decision, others questioned motives, but the effect was universal. The game had changed. Maino's choice sent ripples through networks, forcing everyone to reconsider allegiances and the balance of power. Cameron, having revealed Jones' fear, held a unique position. Authority and insight gave him leverage. Each revelation was a strategic move designed to shift perception, recalibrate trust, and place himself at the center of the evolving narrative. Fear, when wielded correctly, became a tool not only for protection, but also for influence. In this environment, knowledge was as powerful as action. As events unfolded, the streets reacted. Rumors spread, whispers became confirmations, and subtle maneuvers in the industry became widely recognized patterns. Everyone involved was under scrutiny. Allies, rivals, and neutral parties all adjusted behavior. The networks of loyalty, respect, and fear were continuously recalibrating in real time. The studio sessions became arenas of power, not just music. Meetings once casual were now high-stakes evaluations. Every handshake, every seating arrangement, every comment made or omitted carried significance. Public appearances were meticulously timed. Social media, the public heft-facing window into this world, became a subtle battlefield. Posts were analyzed for hidden meanings, and silence wasn't treated as a statement. Actions, not words, defined influence and control. By midweek, the first visible consequences were evident. Alliances shifted. Partnerships reevaluated. A friend today could become a rival tomorrow. Observers noticed patterns that were invisible to outsiders. The way meetings were arranged, who was invited, who was deliberately excluded. Signals were everywhere, yet subtle enough to avoid outright confrontation. The city's hip-hop culture had entered a phase where perception was currency and reputation could rise or fall on a single calculated move. The tension escalated when rumors of confrontations reached the public eye. While nothing physical occurred, the psychological impact was undeniable. The network of influence, loyalty, and fear now dictated interactions in studios, streets, and online platforms. Everyone involved had to operate under a microscope, aware that miscalculations could have long-lasting implications. Maino's strategic withdrawal continued to reverberate. His decision, though silent, redefined relationships. New players weighed the consequences of alignment. Rivals evaluated whether to exploit openings or maintain distance. Every move became an exercise in calculation where timing, context, and perception were more important than volume or force. Cameron's role intensified by revealing Max B. Fear. He had altered the perceived balance of power. Others in the network adjusted their actions in response, some cautiously, others assertively. Fear once hidden was now a factor in every calculation. The stakes were no longer hypothetical. They were operational, real, and imminent. As the days progressed, the scene stabilized, but only temporarily. The equilibrium was delicate, built on continuous observation and strategic restraint. Patterns were reinforced, alliances clarified, and loyalties reaffirmed or tested. Every public move, every private discussion, every interaction was part of a larger strategy with consequences far beyond what casual observers could see. The climax of this chapter was not a confrontation, but a reshaping of influence. Jim Jones. Maino and Cameron each emerged with recalibrated positions. Publicly, appearances suggested calm. Privately, the strategic landscape had transformed. Power was not lost or gained through overt conflict, but through the careful execution of perception, loyalty, and information. By the end of Part 3, the industry recognized that the drama had fundamentally changed the dynamics. Trust was a premium commodity, fear a strategic tool, and loyalty a testable measure. Actions, decisions, and even silence now carried significance far beyond the immediate moment. The narrative concluded not with a bang, but with a realignment. Reputations were solidified, networks were clarified, and the new order had been established. Everyone involved learned critical lessons. Loyalty carries consequences. Fear can be leveraged, and influence is as much about strategy as it is about presence. What unfolded in these weeks became a blueprint for understanding how power, perception, and loyalty operate in the hip-hop world. The events, though specific to Jim Jones, Maino and Cameron demonstrated universal truths about strategy, consequence, and influence. By the close, the stage was set for future narratives. The storm of the past weeks had passed, but its impact remained. Each player knows that in this world, reputation is fragile, loyalty is tested constantly, and the consequences of choices echo long after decisions are made. The game had changed, lessons had been learned, and the city's hip-hop scene would never see the same dynamic again. The story ended, but the legacy of these moves, the strategy, the fear, the loyalty, and the revelations would continue to influence alliances, reputations, and the culture for years to come. The streets had spoken, and the players had responded, leaving a blueprint of calculated drama, strategic silence, and power redefined. Yo, listen up. You've just witnessed the rise and clash of power, loyalty, and fear. Jim Jones exposed. Maino quitting. Cameron revealing Max B's fear. But this story, it's more than just headlines. It's a blueprint of how the streets, the studio, and the culture really move. Now, here's the deal. If you're serious about understanding real hip-hop drama, not just what hits the timelines, you need to be in the loop. Every handshake, every glance, every strategic silence we just broke down carries weight. It's the kind of insight most people miss while they scroll. So, here's your move. Hit that like button if this saga shook you, if the tension hit deep, if the story made you rethink what loyalty and fear really mean in the streets, then subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this don't wait. They hit hard and fast, and you want to be there first, not catching up. Drop a comment below and tell us, was Mo right to step away? Did Cameron play the game smart, or did he stir the pot too far? Your opinion matters. The streets notice who speaks and who stays silent. This isn't just entertainment. This is strategy, power, and consequence. Every decision in hip-hop echoes beyond music. And the next wave of drama, it's already forming. Be ready, be alert, and stay part of the conversation before it blows up. Remember, loyalty can cost you, fear can control you. And the truth, it never waits.